Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. In today's video, we're diving into the recent Social Security changes that have come into play since President Trump took office earlier this year in 2025. Whether you receive SSA, SSI, or SSDI benefits, these updates directly affect you, so stick around because we're going to break it all down in a simple and clear way. Now, before we jump into it, just a quick reminder: if you want to stay up to date with real, verified news about Social Security, Medicare, and government benefits, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We only share accurate, non-misleading updates here, no hype, just facts. Alright, let's get into it. Since returning to the White House in January 2025, President Trump's administration has moved fairly quickly in making some structural changes to Social Security and how it's managed, especially in how payments are processed, who gets them, and how government offices function. Some of these changes were started under the previous administration and were just finalized now, while others are new initiatives rolled out in the last few months. One of the biggest developments we've seen so far has to do with something called the Social Security Fairness Act. This was actually signed into law by President Biden before he left office, but the implementation and follow-through were handled by the new Trump administration. The Fairness Act eliminated two long-standing provisions that often reduced benefits for people who worked in jobs where Social Security taxes weren't withheld, for example, some public sector employees. It also impacted the benefits that certain family members, like spouses, could receive. The challenge was that even though the law had passed, the process of identifying who qualified and getting those people their increased payments, and in many cases, back pay, was expected to take about a year. That's where the Trump administration stepped in and sped things up. By automating large portions of the system, the Social Security Administration was able to deliver back payments to most affected seniors in March 2025, just 2 months after the administration took over. And starting in April, those beneficiaries are now receiving permanently increased monthly payments. That's a big win for about 3.2 million people who had been shortchanged for years. Another change that stirred up a lot of discussion is related to Social Security office locations. The Trump administration launched a broader cost-saving program aimed at reducing government spending, and as part of that, a number of Social Security office leases were identified for non-renewal. This doesn't necessarily mean those offices are shutting down immediately, but it does mean that once their current leases end, they might not be renewed. This has raised concerns in some communities, especially rural areas, about access to in-person services. However, the Social Security Administration has clarified that no field offices have permanently closed yet, and that any changes would be communicated well in advance. So it's a situation to watch closely over the coming months. One of the more controversial decisions that's already been implemented involves how Social Security handles overpayments. During the previous administration, the rules were updated so that if someone was accidentally overpaid, maybe due to a clerical error or outdated information, the Social Security Administration could only take back 10% of the monthly check, or a minimum of $10, whichever was greater. This gave people some breathing room to pay back what they owed without completely losing their income. But as of March 27, 2025, the Trump administration has reinstated the 100% overpayment recovery rate. That means if you were overpaid after that date, the SSA can now withhold your entire monthly benefit until the full amount is repaid, unless you qualify for an exception. This change doesn't apply to overpayments that happened before that date, or to most SSI recipients, but for many SSA and SSDI recipients, it could cause serious financial stress. If you're in this situation, it's very important to contact the SSA and request either a lower recovery rate or a waiver, especially if the overpayment wasn't your fault or you simply can't afford to pay it back all at once. We've also seen some changes proposed and then quickly rolled back regarding how Social Security handles fraud prevention. At one point, the administration announced a new policy that would have required people to go online or visit a local office in person to make certain account changes, like switching your direct deposit bank account. The idea was to reduce identity theft and fraudulent claims, especially from people who had access to someone else's Social Security number. However, after significant public backlash, the policy was reversed. People can still call the SSA to make most changes, though there may be a few extra steps now to verify your identity. It's a reminder that while fraud prevention is important, accessibility matters too, especially for seniors and people with disabilities who may not be comfortable using online services. In terms of communication, there's also been a shift in how the Social Security Administration shares updates with the public. Rather than relying mostly on press releases and formal memos, the SSA has now started using social media platforms, especially X, formerly known as Twitter, to make important announcements. This is part of a broader move to reach people more quickly and directly, especially younger recipients who are more likely to follow government accounts online. While it's a modern approach, some critics say the SSA still needs to make sure it's sharing critical updates in accessible ways, including by mail, email, and official website posts, so that no one is left out. Another major change that's set to be implemented later this year is the phase-out of paper checks. The Social Security Administration is planning to stop sending physical checks through the mail and instead move entirely to electronic payments. If you don't already have direct deposit set up, you'll likely be encouraged or required to enroll. There will still be exceptions for people who don't have bank accounts, but for most recipients, direct deposit will become the only method of receiving benefits. This change is aimed at reducing fraud, speeding up payments, and saving money on printing and postage. If you're still getting a paper check, now's a good time to look into switching to direct deposit to avoid any issues later this year. And finally, one of the bigger proposals that's gaining traction, though it hasn't been finalized yet, is the elimination of federal taxes on Social Security benefits. This is something President Trump has talked about for years, and now that he's back in office, the administration is actively exploring ways to make it happen. Right now, depending on your income, a portion of your Social Security benefits may be taxable at the federal level. Many retirees feel this is unfair, since they paid into the system with already taxed dollars throughout their working lives. Eliminating these federal taxes could mean more take-home income for millions of retirees. Of course, this would require action from Congress, so we'll have to wait and see if it moves forward later this year. So, to wrap things up, 2025 has already brought some major updates to Social Security. From speeding up long-awaited benefit increases, to controversial changes in overpayment recovery, to shifts in how services are delivered and how the SSA communicates, it's clear that the Trump administration is taking an active role in shaping the future of Social Security. Some of these changes have been well received, while others are sparking debate and possibly even reversal in the near future. Either way, if you receive SSA, SSI, or SSDI benefits, it's more important than ever to stay informed and be proactive. Make sure you're checking your Social Security account regularly online, updating your information, and reaching out to the SSA if you ever receive a letter or notice that you don't understand. And remember, you always have rights. Whether it's overpayment waivers, appeals, or fraud protection, help is available. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you found this helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up, sharing it with someone you care about, and subscribing for more real, honest updates. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of these changes so far? Are they helping or hurting? I'd love to hear your perspective. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.